Markelle Fultz is nearing a return. We spoke to him after practice on Thursday. And so we're going to chat a little bit about why he's in it for the long haul. Plus, the Magic hit the road at a critical juncture in the schedule. We'll get to that on today's episode of Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is or will be December 15th, 2023. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the expert and site editor over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, Markelle Fultz inching ever closer to a return. Some news from him, and we'll hear from him on today's episode of Locked On Magic as he tries to get back for the long haul, the change of mindset for the Orlando Magic coming up here in a minute. Plus, we'll chat about some of the Magic's road struggles, especially on offense. Hear from Jamal Mosley on that and look at the tough schedule ahead. We are going to learn a whole lot about the Orlando Magic here very, very soon. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first in the morning, whether it's right when we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. This episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. We have news on the injury front, or maybe it's not news. Who knows? We're going to find out on Friday, but Markelle Fultz has officially been upgraded to questionable on the Orlando Magic's injury report for Friday's game, suggesting that he is very, very close to his return. Wendell Carter has been ruled out. They both did participate in practice on Thursday. They both did more contact drills. Jamal Mosley, though, did continue to say that they were not full go, if that is a distinction that needs to be made. But they are doing more and more in practice. So it is very, very possible that one or both will be back this weekend. Certainly, I think Wednesday is a very good chance the Magic will practice Tuesday. So again, those practice days are really, really important just to kind of test and make sure that these guys get over these final hurdles and make a difference for these teams. Of course, this is long awaited. And we'll get into how, we talked a little bit yesterday about how both Markelle Fultz and Wendell Carter are going to help this team. But something has indeed changed a little bit about the mindset that the Magic are going through. And Markelle Fultz honestly crystallized this the best when he was describing coming back from this injury. Now, Fultz said that he really didn't feel any issue with his knee until right after the game against the LA Clippers on October 31st. Just felt a bit off, realized his knee had swelled up a ton. That's just tendonitis. Tendonitis, the tendon is the fiber, I don't know exactly what it is. It's the thing that holds your muscle to the bone. And tendonitis is essentially a bruising of that connective tissue, that connection. And so there's really nothing you can do. There's just not a lot you can do other than rest and let it heal. And that's what Fultz has had to do. He's had to kind of let things build and grow. But the important thing is that the Magic played well in his absence. That is important. But the important thing is that what has had to happen is Markelle's just had to kind of slowly, incrementally get himself back into the flow of things. He's had to slowly get himself back into game shape, into play, and slowly put himself in a position to be back. And at the end of the day, as much as he wants to play, and he is, you could tell both he and Wendell are very eager to get back and be a part of this thing. They want to be part of what this team is doing. Wendell Carter said on the Magic Pod Squad, there's a lot of people around the league that are seeing what the Magic are doing and are really excited about it, are really, really eager to see this team perform. But for Markelle Fultz, this was truly about the long haul. This was truly about not just playing games here in November, in November or October. It was about being ready for what really matters, because guess what? The Magic are a team that's now focused on March and April as much as they're focused on games in December. And that's why it's taken Markelle so long to get back.
It's still, I can't give you a timeline. Just been taking it day by day, really just trying to get the best out of each day and see how my body responds. I think that's been the biggest part, with what's going on, is just pushing it and making sure that nothing goes wrong. I'm thinking a long game here. I don't want to come back in and play a few games and have to sit back out. I'd rather, when I'm back, I want to stay back for the long run. So we've just been doing a great job of just, taking it day by day and really pushing myself every day to get a little bit better and get closer to stepping out there.
It really has been a day-to-day thing with Markelle. And you could tell there, like, he's been through the injury rigmarole. He knows what his body, he's even said this actually, he knows his body really well. He knows when it's ready to play. He knows when it's struggling. And as much as Markelle wants to play, he knows that his best ability is availability. It's something a lot of Magic fans have told me as we've begun to at least ponder a little bit about the future for Markelle Fultz and what his free agency might bring this offseason. That is a thing. That is a thing that we are thinking about still. But this has been the difficult thing about what Fultz is doing, is he's had to wait. He's had to sit and wait and try and wait for his body to catch up to what he wants to do. And look, the Magic, aren't going to admit that, yes, the team's record enables them to kind of slow play some of these injuries, make sure guys are back healthier than ever before. Now, Jamal Mosley said the mindset is, whatever gets their guys in the best position to be successful. Would the Magic have waited this long if the Magic were a 500 team and they needed Markelle out there? Probably not. With guys' health, especially with someone who has an injury history like Markelle Fultz has, you want to be careful. And obviously he had surgery on that left knee. That's the knee that he had the ACL surgery on. It's undoubtedly something that the Magic were concerned with. We're worried about, and they know that it's more important to have Markelle available for January, February, March, April than it is right now. Again, every game is important, but they know that this has to be about the marathon. They want to get him to the finish line. And if he is as good as they think he is, they need him on the floor. And look, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. The Magic are a better team with Markelle Fultz. I don't care that he's averaging only 11.4 points per game and 4 assists per game in his five games. He had a rough start to the season, shooting like 48%. He's a 52% shooter last year. The Magic had a 105.9 offensive rating with Fultz on the floor, 104.6 defensive rating. The defense was better than the Magic's average through November 9th. Offense was about 4 points worse, a little bit less than 4 points per 100 possessions worse with Fultz on the floor. Offense was a struggle for this team early on in the season. I don't anticipate that will be the case, because guess what? Last year, the Magic had a 110.3 offensive rating, which was about a point per 100 possession worse with Fultz on the floor for the season. But after the All-Star break, the Magic had a 113.9 offensive rating. We know what a dynamic and explosive Markelle Fultz can be. And we know what that means to this team. He's a great distributor. He can squeeze into defenses. He can squeeze into lanes. He's an excellent mid-range shooter. He's a guy that's going to set up Paolo, Banchero, Wendell Carter, or Goga Batadze, for instance, and put them in positions to score. The Magic did not get the best of Markelle Fultz, obviously, in those first 5 games. But they clearly know what he can be. And obviously, all he can do is be healthy. All he can do is get himself back on the floor. And again, the goal here, and Markelle admitted this too, and we'll play the clip here in a minute. The goal here is not to be out on the floor for just a little bit. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to be on the floor for the long haul. The Magic want Markelle Fultz for the next 60 games. Let's say 60 games. About 60 games left. They want him out there for the next 60 games. And if they have to sacrifice these 15 games to do so, that's what they had to do to get him ready to play.
So it's a tricky game, but, with the great staff we have here and, the stuff that I've been through, I have a great understanding of my body and understanding, what I feel comfortable in what I know I need to be comfortable at in order to go out there and play the game to the best of my ability and help my teammates to the best of my ability. So really just been focusing on those and checking off those boxes and getting closer every day. So again, I'm super excited just to be able to the last couple of days to go through practice with my teammates, get up and down, some light contact with that and see how I feel recovering from that.
Clearly, Fultz is on the cusp of his return. And like I said, he is as excited as anybody else to get back on the floor and to make a difference on this team. But the Magic obviously want him there for good. Fultz understands that, and that's why this injury has taken so long. Will we see Markelle Fultz on the floor on Friday? It certainly seems to be trending that way. I think they're going to let him see what he does and shoot around, make it a game time decision. It's probably going to happen this weekend. I can't imagine that he's questionable for Friday and doesn't play at least on Sunday. But the Magic are about to get these two players back, and they're hoping with both Wendell Carter, a freak injury. I mean, again, he's had this history of injury, but they've all been weird, random injuries. Markelle's, this knee thing's a little bit recurring. It's going to be something they're going to be monitoring for the rest of the season. But the goal is that their caution now is going to help them so much more later. The Orlando Magic, though, hitting the road for a critical set of games in Boston, battle of the top two teams in the East. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Magic's road struggles coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word from our friends over at Dave. Look, at one time or another, we all need a little financial help. That's why Dave is great. Dave can get you cash when you need a hand between paychecks and can help you build credit by settling extra cash advances on time. Finances can be so intimidating, and that's why you need Dave. They can make managing your money so much easier. Dave is the banking app that's leveling up the financial playing field. When you download Dave, you could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less with no credit check and no late fees. As part of Dave's extra cash account, advance the money you need with no interest and then settle up later. Extra cash gives you more money to buy groceries, fill your tank, finally get your car repaired, or catch up on bills without having to wait for your next paycheck. You can even build credit when you settle up on time. Millions of people have downloaded the Dave app to make their finances easier. So if you're in a pinch, get the help you need by downloading Dave. Download Dave today at dave.com/LockedOnNBA. That's dave.com/LockedOnNBA. You could get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. Download the Dave app now or go to dave.com/LockedOnNBA for terms and conditions. Go to dave.com/legal. Eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve, member FDIC. Don't forget the Locked On Podcast Network has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel today. The Orlando Magic have been dominant at the Amway Center, and perhaps we will play back some of those numbers before Wednesday's game against Miami in the first game played at the insert new arena name here building. The Amway Center signage is now down off the building, yet soon to formally be known as the Amway Center. We'll find out the name of that game before the Magic's game against the Miami Heat. So stay tuned for that, for coverage of that. But the Magic have been downright dominant at home. They're on a 9-game home winning streak. They're 10-2 officially at home, 10-1 on the home parquet or home in-season tournament floor. I guess it's the home blues. I don't know what we call it now. But the Magic have been really, really good at home, which obviously means they haven't been so hot on the road. Look, the Magic aren't bad on the road. They're 5-5 away from the Amway Center. And as we all kind of know, the mission of any season is to win all your home games and make up the difference on the road. Going about 500 on the road is pretty good. If you're getting 20 wins on the road, 20-21, and you win 30 home games, that's 50 wins. 30-11, that's a pretty good home record. But That's your form. You don't have to be a dominant road team is what I'm saying to get to 50 wins, to get to 45 wins, to get to 41 wins. The Magic are taking care of their business at the Amway Center. Now it's about how do we get this stuff to travel? How do we get this team to travel? How do we get what this team does so well at home to play on the road? Because the fact of the matter is Orlando is one of the best home teams in the league. They're second. Let me pull the stats up here. So you're going to have to wait for me while I cycle through stats here. They are the third best team by net rating at home, a plus 13 net rating at home at the Amway Center and Mexico City. Sorry, I can't split those stats out. They're 11-2. Only the Boston Celtics, now at 12-0, who the Magic will be facing on Friday. We'll get to that in a minute. Are the only team with more home wins. The Magic have done a really good job at home, obviously. They have taken care of their business on the home floor. The numbers really do, the basic numbers really speak for themselves. The Magic have a 120 offensive rating at home in home games with a 107 defensive rating. That's plus 13. You see how they're plus 13. That 120 offensive rating and that 107 defensive rating are the numbers you're going to want to remember. Because on the road, not that the script is flipped, but this is where you start to see the problems. Now, you expect teams to perform worse on the road. So some of this is not surprising. The Magic go from a 107 defensive rating to 110.8 defensive rating on the road. Look, a 110.8 defensive rating is still fifth in the league among all teams on the road. The Magic are doing okay defensively on the road. As much as you want to say anything else, the Magic's defense mostly travels. They're able to put that thing in the carry-on bag, ship it to the next place, and play pretty solid defense. You should be able to win games with a 110 defensive rating. The reason why the Magic are 5-5 on the road, though, is their offense goes from 120 at home to 105.9. Their -5 net rating is 20th in the league. A 105.9 offensive rating is just abysmal. In fact, that 105.9 offensive rating is the third worst road offensive rating in the league. The Magic have a problem on the road. And look, their road wins are okay. They've got 2 wins over Chicago. They beat the Jazz. Let's see, that's 3. They've beaten, who else they beat on the road? I'm going to quickly rack my brain and figure out who they've beaten on the road here. They beat Chicago twice. They beat Utah, as I said. They lost to Cleveland. I'm going through the teams real fast here. They beat Portland, so that's 4. Their road wins are okay. They don't have that big marquee road victory quite yet. And look, we're going to talk about the schedule here in a minute. So what do the Magic need to do to travel a little bit more? Jamal Mosley provides us with a little bit of an answer.
I think the one thing that it's a high level of communication. The thing that this group has continued to do is we play hard. We play hard, we play for each other defensively, but on the road, because of the atmosphere, because of the environment, you've got to be more connected. You've got to communicate with each other at a high level when the building is loud and people are screaming. You've got to make sure that you're connected together on the floor.
Statistically, it's offense that's really struggled on the road this year. How do you kind of bring some of the juice that you have offensively at home on the road? How do you help the offense travel?
You have to allow your defense to create the offense, and I think a lot of times on the road you get away from getting easy baskets. So we have to focus on getting stops to be able to get out and run. We don't want to try to always hang our hat on the offensive end where the shots are going in or out. We want to make sure that we're continuing to focus on what we can do defensively, and that's our energy, our effort, and our level of communication.
With any coach, the focus is always going to be on defense first. That's just how coaches are wired, and we love them. God love coaches for being wired that way. Coaches are wired to believe that defense comes first, and absolutely it should. So, the Magic have to figure out how to get their offense to travel. And as Mosley says, it starts with defense. That's this team's identity. That's what's most important. Look, the Magic's defense has done well to keep the team involved in games at this point in the season. But the Magic, Indiana was the other road win. There, Indiana's a marquee road win. There's your one good road win out of the 5. There, I knew it would come to me. But the Magic have to find a way to make their defense spark their offense. It does so at home, and a lot of that is shooting. The Magic's 3-point shooting at home versus the road, if you let me stall and pull up the stats here, is pretty good. It's pretty actually stark. A lot of the Magic struggles as a shooting team come on the road. At home games at the Amway Center, as well as in Mexico City, the Magic shoot 37.1% from beyond the arc, 37.1% from the three at home, which is middle of the pack. Again, this is not a good three-point shooting team. On the road, they shoot 30.8%. If you're looking for a key difference for the Magic, they struggle to make shots. 30.8%, three-point field goal shooting on the road. They're shooting 44.7% overall. That's 26th in the league. At the end of the day, what the Magic's biggest problem, yes, their defense needs to generate their offense, but the Magic's biggest problem on the road is quite simply they don't make shots. And so as the Magic gets set to hit the road, and we got a big road trip coming up here, 2 games in Boston, come home versus Miami, then back out to the road, Milwaukee, Indiana, Washington over Christmas. And Washington can score. Remember, Washington can score points here. So I feel a little bit of a trap game heading to Capital One Arena coming up in about a week. The Magic are going to have to find a way to make this travel. And look, getting Markelle back, getting Wendell back is going to help. You get more offensive weapons. But now the Magic have to find a way to make their biggest weakness travel a little bit. They could clearly score. We've seen that at the Amway Center time and time again. Now they got to score on the road. And that's going to be a huge challenge moving ahead. We're going to talk about what the Magic have to prove over the next week of basketball. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, it's time for a quick word for our friends over at Prize Picks. Look, daily fantasy sports can be really, really, really difficult to play. You got these complicated salary caps, even more complicated scoring systems. Makes the in-season tournament group play seem easy to figure out. You want simple, and you want something that you know you can win. And that's why Prize Picks is the game for you. It's a daily fantasy game that I play, and even when I lose, I have a good time because I know I actually have a chance to win. All you have to do with Prize Picks is put together a group of 2 to 6 players and project whether they will score more or less than their projected numbers. If you think the Magic are going to hold Jason Tatum under 30 points, you just simply say he's going to score less than 30 points. If you think Paolo Banchero is about to drop more than 22 on the Celtics, you simply say he's going to score more than that 22.5 point projection. It's that easy. And with basketball season here, with football season going on, you can now pick combo projections across 2 sports from the Specials League. That's a league created specifically for combo projections that includes 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. For example, LeBron James and Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3 points made and receptions. It's really that easy. Plus, Prize Picks offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy like this. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks is daily fantasy sports made easy. The Orlando Magic are in Boston this weekend for a critical matchup between the top 2 teams in the East. Okay, the Milwaukee Bucks are 17-7, but 2 of the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. A lot of people have been waiting to see if this Orlando Magic team is real. And look, Orlando's beaten some good teams. They beat Denver at home. They beat Boston at home already. They beat Indiana on the road and held that great offense to very few points, dominated that offense. They've beaten Cleveland now at home. They beat, Houston. The Houston Rockets are sitting pretty at 12-9. The Magic beat the Rockets already at home. The Magic resume looks legit. And again, a lot of those games coming at home, the biggest road win was at Indiana. What everyone has been circling is this weekend series against Celtics. Look, Magic fans have been circling this weekend series against Celtics. We have at least for us Magic fans, a traditional rivalry with Boston dating back to 1995 when we closed the Boston Garden. Certainly 2009 and 2010 are big playoff bellwethers for us. The Celtics were the team the Magic really had to overcome and climb to get to championship status with Dwight Howard. And it's kind of the same way now. This is a bit, we played that humongous game on Black Friday. This is a big game for Magic fans. For the Celtics, you could tell they were a little annoyed with how the Magic played them during that in-season tournament game before they went ahead and beat Chicago by 30 to advance. You could tell that, yes, the Celtics broadcast crew has rustled the Hornets' nest. The Magic have taken some stuff that they've said personally, Eddie House, and they have made this a big game. Boston as a team, as the kind of established team in the East, is certainly going to be eager to put this upstart Magic team in their place, especially considering the Magic have won the last 4 games against the Boston Celtics, and the one game they lost last year was an overtime game, it wasn't overtime, it was a game. It was a very close game on the second game of the season at the Amway Center. Very good performance by Paolo Banchero too, I might add. This is a prove-it game for the Orlando Magic. Everyone around the league is going to look at how the Magic play in this series and probably determine what they're going to think about the Magic for the next month. If you want Paolo Banchero or Franz Wagner to make the All-Star team, this is a big weekend for them to prove it. And while they're not going to be on national TV, if Orlando wins the season series against the Celtics, if they go 3-0 against Celtics, especially if they win the game Sunday, so everyone's talking about it on the talk shows on NBA Today and all the talk shows on Monday, all of a sudden the Magic are going from upstart team to maybe they're going to last. Maybe this is a group that's going to hang around a little bit. I don't want to put too much into one game. It's one game. The Celtics are a good team. There's no shame in losing to them on the road. I am expecting a split in this series, if not a Celtic sweep. I think the Magic, especially if they're going to be integrating Markelle Fultz back, there's going to be a lot to work on. Orlando didn't see Drew Holiday the last time they played. They didn't see Kristaps Porzingis in the second half of that game on Black Friday. The Magic took advantage. They did the job. They blew them out. They're still very capable of winning these games. It's going to be a challenge. And this whole next kind of month is going to be a challenge. Just take a look at the next 5 games for the Orlando Magic. Obviously, this two games against the Celtics. Then the Magic play the Miami Heat. The Heat are still at 14-10. They're kind of back into their groove. They're figuring things out. They're also undefeated in the division at 5-0. They haven't played the Magic yet, of course. Then the Magic have a back-to-back at Milwaukee, the second-place team in the East at the moment. I'm not going to read too much into a second night of a back-to-back game in Milwaukee, but Milwaukee's playing much better. And the Indiana Pacers are looking at that game on December 23rd. They're 13-9. They're looking at that game December 23rd and thinking, we owe this Magic team one. In fact, Tyrese Halliburton said as much during an interview that he did during the Nets-Raptors game or during the Celtics-Bulls game on the final night of the in-season tournament. There was an alternate broadcast on the NBA app. He was asked, who do you want to see in the in-season tournament? And he said, I don't want to pick a team, but, Orlando, we owe them one for what they did to us on our home floor a couple weeks back. They're going to be charged for that game in Indiana, like Orlando, a little bit of an upstart. In fact, when you look at the Magic schedule, and I know I mentioned this earlier, when you look at the Magic schedule from now until the midpoint of the season in mid-January, the Orlando Magic do not play only one team that missed at least the play-in tournament last year, or they played 2 teams that missed the play-in tournament last year. One of those is Indiana. They're 13-9. The other is the Washington Wizards on December 26th. The Magic do play the Atlanta Hawks a couple times. They're 9-14. The Hawks are really struggling right now. So maybe that's a little bit of a reprieve. We know how dangerous they can be. They beat Orlando and Mexico City, obviously. But Orlando's going to play New York. They're going to go out. They're going to go on a West Coast trip a little bit here and play a very tough West Coast trip that features Phoenix, Golden State, Sacramento, and Denver, I believe. This is going to be a challenging run for the Magic over the next 4 weeks. We talked about that. It's one of the big storylines for the next quarter of the season. But it starts this weekend. It starts with making a statement this weekend. And look, Orlando has consistently said, we feel we can beat anybody. They wake up and come to a game knowing we can win this game. And the Magic are at that level. The Magic are at that stage where they know they can win any game they play. What we don't know and what the Magic have to prove is that they can beat elite teams consistently, that they can beat Boston, that they can beat Milwaukee, that they can beat Miami, that they can beat Philadelphia, who I believe they also play during the stretch, that they can take care of their business against these elite competitions. Look, I still kind of expect the Magic to be at least maybe a game or two over 500. They're going to struggle through this stretch, especially as they're beginning to integrate some players back into the rotation. It's going to take some time. But what the Magic have tried to prove, and what the Magic are going to continue to try to prove, is that they can be competitive with these teams, that they're in the same league. And it starts tonight. It starts Friday night in Boston. It starts Sunday afternoon in Boston, that they can prove we are in this class of team, that we are of this same group, and that we are not going anywhere. You hate to say that you got to make a statement because it has to be about yourself first. We talk about the road woes. The Magic got to take care of their defense. They got to take care of their offense. They got to make some shots. They got to find themselves before they worry about their opponent. They're good enough that they can win games just worrying about themselves now. It used to not be that way. But the Magic have to prove themselves. And that's what this next week is all about. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and also based on podcast to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can, of course, follow us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And also be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Don't forget to check out the brand new 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube from the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel today. We'll be back again Friday night, Saturday morning to break down the Magic's game against Boston Celtics. We'll do the same Sunday as well. So until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.